their clothes. They become chilled. And bike lanes then would move the traffic out away from the curb and beyond the standing water. A 4-to-3 conversion would slow traffic, reducing risk to their clients and to the motorists. And then the clients wishing to cross 6th Street now have to cross 6 lanes, and that would be reduced because of the bike lanes, 3 lanes to get across. And some of the clients frequent the facility by bicycle, and they could do so more safely in a bike lane. So this then would connect with Kitsap Way to the west and downtown, and Manette with the beautiful bike lanes that we've created in our wonderful city. We just have this gap that we need to close. I think a 4-to-3 conversion would bring prosperity to the neighborhood as it brings the downtown upgrade to this area, which it desperately needs. And then lastly, the traffic currently backs up for westbound traffic approaching Warren Avenue during rush hour, and we could sure use a longer right turn lane for storage of the cars. So I personally would like to see this happen sooner rather than later, and doing it certainly as part of the phase 3 repaving. We've had study after study saying this is the way to go. Let's get on with it. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for your comment. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yes, my name is Roosevelt Smith, and I'm here to comment on a meeting that took place on the 20th of last month, in which Judge Flood was involved in. I believe in my city council. I believe in civility. I strongly believe in decorum, and I also believe in having respect. What happened to Judge Flood was unbearable. I'm very, very appalled that the council did not stop. And I don't know the parliamentary rules of how one should speak when others are speaking as it relates to the council. But someone should have said, look, guys, let's shelf this for a minute. Let's take a break. It got out of control. And I'm very, very disappointed that did not happen. You know, young kids talk about being dissed, meaning being disrespected. And you hear this in all aspects of our kids' lives. And what that means is they want to be respected. Judge Flood deserved an apology. She also deserved to be respected. We voted for her. We put her in office. If someone insults the integrity of Judge Flood, that means that you're insulting me as a voter. Remedy, issue an apology, and we can move on. The thing I would like to say about the council that I really enjoy dealing with the council that we have now. They're very progressive, and progressive is not a bad word. It's a very good word. So as we consider ourselves being progressive, let's do so as we relate to our elected officials, especially our judge, which is Tracy Flood. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Please go ahead.
Hello, my name's Patrick Cooper. I'm also a Bremerton citizen, and I live in District 6, lifelong Bremertonian, either worked here or lived here my whole life. I also was upset about the September 20th meeting. The first time I watched it, it was upsetting. I watched it again because I wanted to make sure I heard everything right. And it was really worse under further review. It's not the whole council was saying anything disrespectful, but Judge Flood, who is an elected official representing the entire city, not just the district, but all of us, was asked mocking questions. She was interrupted constantly and kind of berated, it felt like. And all she was asking for was the same security pre-COVID conditions, now that we're all back to non-COVID conditions. Like one of maybe 2 people wore a mask today. So COVID's not really over, but we're kind of back to normal, and security needed to be raised for the courthouse. I'm glad that, eventually the council decided to give Judge Flood the security she deserves. But the disrespect she was shown, I'm probably about as white as they come, and I try to be colorblind. Everybody says I'm colorblind, but when I see a panel of all white people kind of beating up on a black judge, all I could think of was like, counsel so white, so I'm trying to like say this in a way that like there needs to be some way to reel in council members. I know you guys take a lot of like disrespect from the community. You get called names and things like that, but you're here to serve an example to all of us. So maybe there needs to be a little sensitivity training around like issues on how we treat each other, what we do if like a meeting starts getting a little out of hand. Maybe like in soccer, we need a yellow card and a red card or something, but that's all I gotta say. I just was embarrassed by it.
No, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Sir, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Paul Dutke, resident of District 7, Bremerton, and I want to inform the council of Public Works' intention to build a very expensive roundabout just north of the Warren Avenue Bridge. I have serious misgivings about this project and believe you would share them if you were given an updated plan for this project. This roundabout concept was adopted during the SR 303 corridor study as a preferred alternative on the basis of the word roundabout. There was no draft design provided to indicate how they would look if they installed it. The reasons to build this roundabout are unclear, but one goal was to slow traffic on the bridge. I have concerns that the benefits desired from the Warren Avenue Bridge Multimodal Improvements Project could be negated by building this roundabout. I was subsequently shown, this is several years ago, a tentative roundabout design. Multimodal paths planned for the bridge were to cross multiple arms of this two-lane roundabout instead of remaining completely separate from motor vehicle traffic. This future roundabout is spoken of favorably at public meetings by Director Nucky. At one of those meetings, he mentioned that the current roundabout design would eliminate the Callahan underpass north of the bridge, a change from the draft design I was shown and a change from the 303 corridor study. The corridor study preferred alternative includes a shared use path through that underpass to help bridge users cross back and forth across Warren Avenue. So I believe this roundabout would create far more problems than it solves at great expense to the city. I suggest council review current plans for the roundabout now and refuse to fund it if they find it impairs multimodal connectivity for bridge users, something the city has been working hard to improve. Eliminating this roundabout would free up time for our public works team to complete the road diet on 6th Street, adopted by council and supported by every one of numerous studies addressing this issue over the past 7 years. And it would free up time for public works staff to implement the Warren Avenue Bridge multimodal shared youth path design recently adopted by council. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Council members. My name is Bree Medley. I'm a resident of Bremerton. I'm in District 6. I am here to basically ask for possibly a delay on the vote for the Oyster Bay Avenue temporary emergency homeless shelter site. It was our understanding that there was going to be a vote on November 1st for this element. Sorry. However, after seeing the presentation, it's pretty clear that that site has been selected regardless of maybe public opinion or discussions. And for residents in that area, I think there's a concern about the transparency associated with what is going to be happening in that space. I'd like to make it very clear that I think we all are in support of trying to find a good place to address the unhoused community and provide safe places for them to be. However, without full understanding of what is going to happen, choosing a site prior to having the availability of information as to what's going to happen seems backwards to us. For myself and for a number of my neighbors that I've spoken with, having a clear understanding of what that process looks like and what that is meant to be in the temporary and long term is very important. And given the amount of grading proposed for it, it does not appear to be more of a temporary situation as it appears to be more of a permanent. And if that's the case, that is great. And we will support it and you will have a community behind you. However, without that transparency, there is a lot of fear going into it. So I would just ask, given the fact that it doesn't look like, and I'm sure it has been done, but it does not look like a lot of different places were studied. And it was just presented as this is going to be the location without putting forth what the actual element is going to be. There's going to be a lot of questions and a lot of fear surrounding what that is, especially given that there's been a lot of issues in that area with the unhoused community that maybe isn't looking for a change of their lives. And so to add to that, you're going to get a lot of pushback. And so for us, we would just ask that you delay that vote until there can be more discussion and more education to the community.
No, thank you. And I think council just got a briefing last week on this site and the mayor's work. There's nothing scheduled for a vote yet on the calendar, but Mayor Wheeler, I don't know if you wanted to address any of that or if you want to talk in one-on-one, either way, so I'm happy to give you the floor. No, I think it's ridiculous. Yeah.
Together. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. Yeah, there's we're going to be bringing forward a series of briefings on shelter types, some of the site visits we've made, and with the other housing provider professionals. No vote will be coming. We will, though, present a preferred option for you with a request for funding, which will require a vote in December. And we want to lead up to that with as much information as possible. And for the reasons we all agree on, any week that we delay moving forward is a week that we won't have people sheltered. And so we're all aware of what that impact has been for the entire community. So we'll get you up to speed. December is when we expect to have a preferred option for you with the funding request in there. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. All right, we'll continue with public recognition in the room. Please go ahead.
Jane Ribolowski, District 4. A couple things. Number one, we need a contingency plan now. It's less than 2 weeks till the Salvation Army shelter opens. We have no place for the people who won't fit in there or who, due to mental illness or other reasons, are not allowed to be there. The community expects that when the shelter opens, that suddenly these encampments are going to be cleared out. And obviously they can't be if you don't have a secondary place. So that's issue number one. Issue number two is with the 6th Street Road diet. And looking at their estimates, it seems like a lot of money is going to be invested into right turn only lanes, which means you have to buy more right of way. You have a lot of signal reconfiguration, and lots of cities are going to no right turn on red. So if we do the project now without any right turns, that way we don't have to rip out brand new ADA ramps that are going to be constructed with the 6th Street Road diet. And if it doesn't work, if traffic backs up, if shipyard workers choose to take 6 to turn on Naval, well, they'll either stop doing that because the backup's too long, or we could modify it at a later date. But we need to get paint on the ground and not rebuild things that were only built a year or two before. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And yeah, Mayor Wheeler, if you want to respond to the first part.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I fully answered the question from before. The site was selected after reviewing multiple city-owned properties. There was a checklist created with that you have seen, and I've been sharing it with anybody who emails me. There are eight or nine different criteria we were looking for. This site was the only one that fit all the criteria. What's currently underway now is some design work to do some leveling and basically some stabilization of slopes understanding the soils in there, getting it ready for a future design, which is when I'll come to you in December. So when I come to you in December, we will look for a shelter specifics design. So when I talked about options, mainly the preferred option of shelters, the site was picked on another under another comprehensive review. So shelter alternatives, I'll give you a preferred one. With that, what I'll need for that is a design money to complete a shelter specific design, site prep work, and also the at that time we'll be asking for some preliminary funding or some upfront funding to purchase the actual structure. So that's maybe provide a little bit more detail about what's coming.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mayor. I know that's a issue on top of people's minds, and I think going forward too, there's probably at least next study session, there's a standing item to get regular progress updates on this. So the public can definitely tune in and keep track. Thank you. All right, let's go online for public comment, and we'll start with Rudy Hess.
Hello, are you guys able to hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Perfect. My name is Rudy Hess. I've been a citizen of this city here for about 8 years now, and I would like to address the City Council and ask them to please remember the USS Liberty. On June 8th in 1967, Israeli forces attacked the USS Liberty, killing 34 US Navy personnel by air and sea attacks, injuring 174 additional service members during the attack. Israel claimed that their intelligence agency identified it as an Egyptian ship, even though it was flying an American flag. Major Uri Meretz knew that the USS Liberty was an unarmed US Navy intel operation, and the Israeli Air Force and Navy bombed and torpedoed the ship anyway. They made sure to target the lifeboat specifically to prevent anyone from escaping. Now, with global events being in the situation that they are, with the situation in Gaza and Israel, the United States Navy has moved the USS Gerald Ford right close to Gaza, and I am personally worried that this is going to give Israel another attempt and chance to attack another US Navy ship with US personnel on board in order to go and, blame it on Hamas in order to start another ground invasion in the Middle East, just like they did with the false flag on 9/11 when they attacked the Twin Towers in order to get the United States Army involved out in Iraq. Now, this is going to cost the lives of thousands of Americans if we allow the Israelis to keep committing these war crimes. And I just personally, as a taxpayer, don't think that, one, our lives and servicemen's lives should be going out there to die for Israel. Two, I don't think that our tax dollars should be going out there. We just sent $8 billion over to Israel. What more money do these Jews need? And three, isn't it disgusting that we're funding this terroristic regime? They sent out this BS stuff about Hamas beheading babies. We have no proof other than an AI generated image. But meanwhile, we have literal video over the last 2 decades of IDF, that's Israeli Defense Forces soldiers, shooting children and high-fiving each other after they shoot children, 12-year-old and under children. They specifically try and shoot these children in the genitals in order to stop them from procreating in the future. If that's not a war crime, I do not know what else could be considered a war crime. And now these Israelis, they have a book in every synagogue in the nation and internationally. It's called the Talmud. And I would just like to read a couple excerpts while I still have some time here. In Kethlab,
30 seconds, sir.
a man who engages in intercourse with a girl of less than 3 years of age has done nothing wrong. This is in their holy book. Now, do you really think that we as a nation, as a city, as a people, should be supporting people who go and shoot children and say that raping girls under the age of 3 years old, well, it specifically says girls.
Keep
But
your
yeah,
language appropriate.
wrong, disgusting. Please, City Council, stop taking money from the ADL. Stop taking funding from
Okay,
these.
and that's 3 minutes, sir. Thank you for your comments. I have to say that, and I have to let people have their 3 minutes unless they're actively trying to disrupt the meeting, as uncomfortable as it is sometimes. Okay, next we'll go to the next person online. That's James Trafficant. Please go ahead, Mr. Trafficant.
Good evening, City Council and Mark Levine. I would like to continue on. Oddly enough, I was recently given a flyer from gtvflyers.com, and it was specifically about the Jewish Talmud. It appears to me that the Goyim know, and they're getting information out about the fact that 96% of all the media in the United States is owned by 6 Jewish corporations. So to go further into this Talmud, so from 15, even the best of the Goyim should all be killed. Yebamoth 98a, all children of Goyim are animals. Baba Metzia 114b, Gentiles or Goys are not humans, they are beasts. Gad, some Semitic word. It's not even really Semitic though, right? Because the Palestinians are the Semites and the Jews or something else. So I don't really know. A Jew may violate but not marry a non-Jew girl. Aboda Zara 36b, Gentile or Goy girls are in a state of filth from birth. Sanhedrin 54b, a Jew may have sex with a child as long as the child is less than 9 years old. Eben Hazar 6-9, all non-Jews are prostitutes. Sanhedrin 58b, if a Goy hits a Jew, he must be killed. Sanhedrin 57a, when a Jew murders a Gentile, there will be no death penalty. Tospath Jebamoth 84b, if you eat with a Goy, it is the same as eating with a dog. Baba Metzia 24a, if a Jew finds an object lost by a Gentile Goy, it does not have to be returned. Abdoa Zara 22a, 22b, Gentiles, Goys, prefer sex with cows. Baba Kama 113a, Jews may use lies to circumvent a Gentile. Sanhedrin 19, every place the Jews go, they must become commanders of their lords. Lieber David 37, if Gentiles knew that the Talmud teaches Jews to destroy them, they would kill us openly. Never communicate the Talmud with Gentiles. Kethuboth 11b, when a grown-up man has intercourse with a little girl, it is nothing. So here is a very disgusting religious text that teaches these people that us Goys, us non-Jews, are subhumans and we don't deserve rights. That's why the ADL is sending you toolkits to shut us down. So we can't tell you. So we can't tell the other Goys what these Jews are doing to us. So they also were pushing the COVID agenda. I heard that Boomer earlier going on about it, the one who loves black people more than whites, and he wants to live in a world full of blacks. That's super weird because 1 out of every 22 black men will commit murder at some point in his life. That's FBI.gov, National Incident-Based Reporting System. So you can check that out if you want to. This comes from your own government that's ran by Jews. So the CDC director previously, at the time of the main pandemic thrust, was Rochelle Walensky, Jewish.
And that's 3 minutes. All right, we're going to go back into the room for public comments. And again, apologies, everybody. The legal advice for the First Amendment is to let people have their 3 minutes unless they are actively inciting violence or disrupting the meeting here. All right, sir, please go ahead.
I'm Mike Simpson. I live in District 6 here in Bremerton, and I'm a combat veteran. I spent 22 years in the Army defending our Constitution so that stupid people like that can say stupid things. And now I'm a bit offended by it, but I don't have a right to not be offended. And the rest of the people in the room should actively speak out in turn after me with their 3 minutes of, voicing their opinion about what just transpired in our room. This is a time for the council to hear the things that we have to say, not the things that people who live outside this city, who live outside of our community, when they espouse some sort of nonsense like this. But in order to take the temperature down a bit, I think maybe what we need to do is we need to have a reset and restart. And probably the right way to restart this entire meeting is to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, there's a member of our community that comes in at every meeting, and she does the Pledge of Allegiance and leads that for our community. And she's not here today, so I will be doing that for her and for us. And if any member of the audience would care to join me, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, thank you. So there have been a couple other comments that sparked my interest. about things that have transpired here in the council chambers. The attitude that was displayed towards Judge Flood was bad, and that's being being nice. Now, one of the questions that was asked was, is there something that the city council can do to bring the temperature down? One of the things that is part of the parliamentary process is censure. And if one member of the council, or it does something that is so egregious that it sparks the outrage of the community, then maybe that's the appropriate venue. But that's up to the council to decide. Now, I could go on for more than 3 minutes, but that wouldn't be fair to the rest of the folks who need to come up here and speak their mind about some of the things that have transpired tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, no one else in the room. Yeah. Is it more and more? Okay, if it's the same voice, then I'm going to default to assuming it's the same person. And sounds good. I'll defer to my fellow council members too to help me.
It
here.
wasn't me. I can't project like that.
Sorry, if you want to go ahead,
Yeah.
Mr. Runyon, go ahead.
Roy
and,
Runyon.
then we'll
Well,
go back
I'm
online.
also a veteran. I was in a combat billet, but I never saw combat. I just want to remind folks, the First Amendment is one of those basic tenets of our system. And, we're going to hear things and read things and see things that we don't like. But the folks that say stuff like that to incite you reveal who they are. So let's be larger, taller, stronger than they are and reveal who we are. Also, I want to comment about the council meeting related to the security issues at the courthouse. And I raised questions. I am glad that there was give and take. All elected officials are accountable to the people ultimately, and you're representatives of the people. And through you, we are represented. So some folks may not like the tone, as far as the censorship, you guys just passed a resolution to adopt new council rules, but there was no mention of censoring council members. So maybe you can go back and fix that, along with reference to the U.S. Constitution and U.S. law that your ordinances need to not violate. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, let's look online, and so I'll go online for the rest of people and see. All right, so Andy O'Brien was already
Point of
recognized.
order here.
Yes, go ahead,
I have a
Mr. Rieger.
recommendation, and I don't know if it's has to be in our council rules of procedures we just passed. But I believe the council president has the authority to take public comment from the people that are lined up here tonight. And then we can have our public hearing, and then we can have public recognition later.
Yes, quite well.
After the council has done its business and not waste everybody's time that showed up here, especially if there's a possibility we have someone that's randomly spamming us.
Agreed.
And then
Thank
we
you.
could kind of
Let's-
figure this all out.
Yeah, Dave, can you show me the rest of the names on there? I just want to, we have some regular commenters. Robert Harris, and council, help me if you recognize any other names that are common in our community. I just recognize Mr. Harris. So why don't we go online to Mr. Harris, go online to you in the room, sir. And then yes, we'll continue public recognition after at the end of the meeting. All right, so Mr. Harris, please go ahead.
Thank you for allowing me to have me on tonight. I just want to say thank you to our community members who are speaking up in regards to how Judge Flood has been treated in regards to this council. And I hope that more community members start to take notice of what's going on when this city council engages Judge Flood. And I also believe that, there should be some manner of decorum in regards to these conversations. We can agree to disagree, but, it should be on a level playing field and one in which all parties are respected. And, when I come on here and I watch you guys, I don't see that level of respect being shared across the board. And it's sad to see. And I'm glad to see that community members are starting to speak up and take notice of what's being said and how it's being said and the manner in which it's being said. And I definitely appreciate that. And I hope that more community members do continue to speak up. And I also agree that, our city council, if they're out of line, they should be censured or some form to address that. Should not just be a free fall. And lastly, I just wanted to ask Mayor Wheeler if he would be willing to get up and give us a quick highlight spiel on what's the latest on the DEI position. Thank you.
We're happy to have the mayor speak on that. I did want to note, though, I believe it was the last general council meeting, an apology was made in person. So, yeah, and
Council President, according to our new rules and procedures, we have an opportunity to reply, correct?
no, not with the new rules and
Okay.
procedures, but
Oh, okay, thank you.
but I will mention an apology was made, and then stick around for council reports to, if you want, yeah, to hear any. Excellent. Anyway, Mayor Wheeler, yes, if you want to give a quick update on the DEI position.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Next Wednesday, if you can just be a little bit patient, we will have a thorough briefing ready to get the council up to speed and the public at their next study session. So there's a lot of work that's been going on. Community engagement is occurring. And so I would just hopefully you can join us and see that presentation.
Thank you. I'll look for my invite.
You are invited, sir.
Absolutely. Everybody's welcome. All right. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so let's do one last public recognition in the room, and then we'll postpone the rest until after to the end of the meeting. Okay, that's no, totally up to you. All right, thank you, sir. All right, with that, I'll go ahead and close public recognition for now, and we'll move on to our public hearing, which is 6A, public hearing on resolution number 3367 to authorize the extension of wastewater utility services to the Fisher Plat located within the East Bremerton urban growth area. And I believe City Engineer Ned Lever is here to introduce all the folks who'll be presenting.
Good evening, Council. I'm Ned Lever. I'm the City Engineer, and the issue is regarding wastewater service to the Fisher Plat. We have Janelle Hitch online to present. Is she queued up? So we'll let Janelle present, the evaluation that we did for providing service to the Fisher Plat. And then we've got some representatives of the developer here. John Rose, Gary Anderson, and Matt Rasmussen are here to present on the side of the developer. And then we'll hear public comment. So.
Excellent. Thank you. And yeah, I did want to point out the council will not be taking any action tonight. So we'll not have there'll be no council discussion, no voting or anything. We're just here to sit back and listen to the people giving the presentation and then all of the public. So I want to make that clear. All right. So with that, we'll turn it over to Ms. Hitch to start the presentation.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having me tonight, and I apologize for not being there in person. I'm struggling with a cold. Could we start the PowerPoint presentation? Thanks, Dave. So I'm going to go through this a little quicker than last week. It's pretty much the same idea. So we're here to discuss the wastewater service request for the Fisher Plat. And the Fisher Plat is located within the jurisdiction of Kitsap County. It's within the East Bremerton urban growth area, which is a designated wastewater service area for Bremerton. So outside the city limits, but within the wastewater service area. And the 2014 wastewater comprehensive plan anticipates service to the East Bremerton UG. Because this is outside the city limits, BMC 1503.040 requires annexation, and where annexation is determined to be infeasible, the City Council is able to decide at their discretion whether to provide the wastewater service. So annexation is considered infeasible at this time, and this presentation will describe that determination. This figure shows the location of the proposed development. The parcels shown in orange are the location of the 189 lot subdivision, and the city limits are shown in the pink to the west. Next slide. So the proposed development in the Enitai neighborhood is not adjacent to the city limits and does not currently have wastewater services or facilities. If the City Council approves services, the extension of the wastewater service would be required, and this extension would be designed and installed by the developer to city standards. The constructed and inspected wastewater facilities would be transferred the city for occupants, and as residential buildings are connected to the system, they collect general facility charges and ongoing service fees. Okay, next slide. This shows the preferred option for the wastewater extension. The extension would include a lift station and approximately 4,000 linear feet of 6-inch force main. The extension would tie into our system at Northeast Fruitland and South and Perry Avenue. Let's see, our existing system was evaluated for both conveyance and wastewater treatment plant capacity. And there is capacity within the system for this extension. The evaluation assumed full build-out conditions of the contributing area in the UGA. Okay, next slide. So as I stated, the code requirements under 15.03.04.
Sorry, if it's at all possible, the volume's starting to drop. If you're able to get a little closer to your mic.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
The room here's going to try and turn it up too.
Okay, thanks. So it's the general policy of the city of Bremerton that properties located outside the city limits annex into the city before wastewater utility services are provided. But the council may approve service if annexation is not feasible. So going on to the next slide. We're back to this figure. So the annexation evaluation was conducted by the city's Department of Community Development, and per state law and Kitsap Countywide planning policies, you may annex if it's contiguous to city limits. The city couldn't annex just the Fisher Pet property is not contiguous. So the annex study considered a larger area, and that's shown in this exhibit. It's outlining. And as stated previously, the applicant's property is in orange. The applicants also own the property in purple to the east. And the properties in green have outside utility agreements. And these agreements effectively state the owners will consent to annexation. Next slide. So the evaluation showed that there was the proposed area included 350 acres and 483 parcels with a total assessed value of $169 million. 60% of the total property value is needed to proceed with annexation, so that's approximately $100 million. So the city has commitments through OUAs and the developer's property values, which total $12.1 million, and that's about 7.2% and well short of that 60%. A survey was also completed by the developer, and it went out to the property owners in the annex study area, and the results showed that more than 90% of the owners did not support annexation. Next slide. So in summary, annexation is infeasible at this time, and the city council must decide at their discretion whether to provide wastewater service to this property in accordance with BMC 15.03.040. The fiscal impacts of not providing utility service is a loss of revenue of approximately $1.5 million in utility charges and $250,000 in annual usage charges. The extension of the wastewater service by the developer is in line with the overall comprehensive plan to provide service in this UGA. That's all I have for this evening. Do you have any questions for me? Otherwise, we can move on to the developers who I believe have a presentation as well.
No, perfect. Thank you so much, Ms. Hitch. We'll go ahead and yes, let these gentlemen present. And feel free to come on up and introduce yourselves, and we'll continue. Dave's working on loading the presentation. We appreciate very much for juggling a very large amount of IT work in this meeting. Thank you, sir. All right, there we go. Take it away.
Mayor Wheeler and council,
I think you just get a little closer to the mic or extend it
Mayor
out.
Wheeler and council, we appreciate the opportunity to present
at this meeting and I'm Matt Rasmussen with Team 4 Engineering. I'm the principal engineer for the firm. And taking one of the leads on moving this project forward. So next slide, please. What we're going to present here tonight is on the right-hand side of the slide above. We're going to present a map of the project area. We're going to discuss the GMA and regional planning implications, the comprehensive plan for wastewater from 2014, design standards and approvals that would be necessary, and then the benefits of the project. And after we're done, we will obviously be open for questions as they may arise. So next slide, please. So this is just a different map of the similar to what Ms. Hitch had provided earlier. So the purple line over on the right side surrounding the yellow box is the plat area or the parcels of the developer that are in question. The purple line around it is the contributing area, which our study provides that will sewage could be flowed from there to a lift station, which was the one we saw earlier. That area is 3 times larger than the plat boundary. So the proposed lift station, and bear in mind, this is all in very conceptual form right now. I mean, we're in the very, very beginning stages. We have not gone into specific design. None of the details have been worked out. It's very, very conceptual, as is appropriate for the level of the project. And it's 3 times larger than the plat boundary. And inside of that area to the west and to the north, there's approximately 61 homes in those areas, existing homes that are on septic systems at this point in time. In the future, if this project is developed and built years and years down the road, those 61 homes, as their systems fail, would have an opportunity to connect up to this project. Next slide, please. And I'm going to turn it over to John to discuss a couple slides. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is John Rose. I'm with Alchemy Development, and I'm just going to cover really the very highest level topics on this particular project. And that is to take us all back to the Growth Management Act, where the story really begins. Kitsap had trouble getting its first comprehensive plans adopted that met with GMA guidelines. They finally got one adopted in 1998. And as you know by now, GMA requires counties and cities to plan for growth, and it requires counties and cities to take growth. That's not an option. You have to, everybody's got to take their share of people. It also set up regional planning bodies so that people wouldn't be working on their own with their own comp plan. They'd have to coordinate with the cities and the jurisdictions around them. So for Kitsap County, we have the Kitsap Regional Coordinating Council. And you're a member, as are the other 2 cities, the county, both tribes, the Navy, and 2 ports. And the idea is, let's have everybody get together and make a plan together. So we're not all working independently on plans that conflict with one another. And as a participant in that, and the same as any citizen, you have the right to disagree with whatever it is that Kitsap County recommends. You have the right to appeal it. And in the early days of the Growth Management Act, it wasn't terribly unusual for a city like Paulsbo, possibly, to appeal the county's comp plan. That happened because there was unhappiness. Over time, everybody got used to working together and realized we're all together on this tiny ship called Kitsap. Well, I was curious about this particular property and its designation. It's obvious that it's zoned for urban uses today. But I was curious as far as how long it's been designated to take urban growth. So the good news is I went to the Kitsap County website, and they have every single comprehensive plan that has ever been published since 1998. And I'm going to leave some of these behind because they're just absolutely fascinating. But I took screenshots of about half of them. And literally since 1998 through today, this property has been zoned to take urban growth. And the reason that's important is because if the council's not of a mind to encourage the plan, it's really late in the game to change, because Kitsap's counting on this area for their population projections and their growth. Your sewer treatment plant is sized for this area to take the growth and to pay off the capital facilities and the charges and the expenses that went into that capital facility. And so, really, if you don't have to, it's discretionary, but it would be upsetting 25 years of a regional plan that has been remarkably consistent in this area. There is a forum for addressing all of the concerns that happen when a project gets proposed. There is a forum for that. And the folks that are immediate neighbors are also your neighbors, but they're not your citizens. They are citizens, and they vote for Charlotte Garrido, Katie Walters, and someday Christine Rolfes when she comes up for reelection. So those elected officials are beholden to them, and because they are in the county property or in the county limits, the county has a process set up just like you do for projects inside the city of Bremerton. This project hasn't made an application. It will make an application someday, but their first step was to see, the Fishers bought this property with its zoning, anticipating it would be a reasonable thought that it would be able to develop at the zoning for which it is designated. And so they'll make an application to Kitsap County. There will be a public notice, just like there is in Bremerton. There will be an environmental review, just like there is in Bremerton. There'll be a hearing and a huge process. And so this is a proper form to say whether or not it's appropriate for this property to receive sewer service. And because it's already been zoned, and that zoning already went through a SEPA process, when the county zones a property or adds it to its comp plan, they do their own environmental impact statement. And so it's been reviewed environmentally since 1998. The question before you, and it's your discretion, you don't have to hook up, but the question is, why wouldn't you, when that is consistent with every plan that's been put out for 25 years? I don't know the merits of the property, of a future project. That has to stand on its own and get analyzed by the planners and the hearing examiner in Kitsap County. And if it's appealed, it'll have to get examined in Superior Court someplace. But you don't have to have two separate hearings in two separate jurisdictions on the merits of whether or not this property should be developed and whether or not sewer service should be given. It's years before anything's going to happen. I develop and have developed here for 28 years. Absolutely nothing happens overnight here. That is one guarantee I can give to anyone in the audience. So, I'd take any questions on sort of that regional planning topic at all. I know neighbors are concerned, and because why wouldn't you be? It's a massive change from what everybody's used to, but it's not a change in the designation and what the county and the city have both planned for this property. The developer has committed to holding, very robust neighborhood meetings and meeting with the public, meeting people face to face, doing so before an application takes place. That's the right forum for that debate. And in fact, I brought a few extra of these. If I don't bring enough for all of you, that's for sure. But we would be happy to meet out in the lobby afterwards if any of you want to learn more about the process or have questions that you don't get answered here tonight about how that process works. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wanted to speak or follow up on that, or yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Next slide, please. This is the second part of what John was just talking about again. We just leave that up there for a minute. Just kind of the visual of what he was discussing. And then on to the next slide, please. And then I'm going to follow that up with just, I started looking at, I got really, really deep into the comprehensive plan when I was doing the sewer capacity study. And I was looking at that again just a few days ago and trying to get some specific information out of there for the budgetary lift station, pumping station that's in the current budget. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But I was really drawn to a few pages when I first got there. And I looked at this and just a few pages into the document, the second part of this up above on the screen, it is the ordinance from back in 2014. And I highlighted one part of it, and it says that the city of Bremerton desires for future growth in its wastewater system service area. And again, this was from a council back in 2014, from your predecessors. Next slide, please. And I got to the executive summary, which is on page 1-1 of that comp plan. And it says that the Bremerton is responsible for providing wastewater service to the city and surrounding areas. And just a little bit further down, it helps describe what that is. Bremerton service provides sewer service to the surrounding areas of incorporated Kitsap County. And those unincorporated county areas include the East Bremerton urban growth area. Next slide, please. So the design standards and approval, as John noted, it's a long, long process. We're at stage 2 or 3 of like 100 steps. You know, we're mandated by the rules and regulations to try to go through to drive the annexation process, and the developer is responsible for a lot of those actions, and then we turn over that data we find to the city engineering team and planners for their analysis of that information. But at this time, like I say, we're very early in the stages of this whole process. But the intention is that the sanitary sewer would be designed to City of Bremerton standards, and the road systems are intended to be designed to the City of Bremerton standards, including, and for urban. So including all sidewalks, you know, ADA accessibility, everything according to the city standards. Storm sewer would be by Kitsap County because it is in the county, and Kitsap County has a more stringent standards than does the state in this case. And then the water for the area is the North Perry Water District. So those are the anticipated standards at this time. Of course, there's lots of things that can change if the project pivots, right? There's a lot of different ways things can go. And approvals, as I'm stating in the very bottom statement, the approvals are anticipated to be through the county with potential review authority that could be delegated or shared, you know, to the city based on future city and county discussions and agreements, you know, about this specific topic. Some of that will be driven by the county and as we get into the process, but representative developer, we're not opposed to that at all. We've come to the table with everything we've had so far with the intention of it being designed to city standards for the roads and streets and obviously this wastewater system. Next slide, please. So I'm going to end my portion of this with what we feel are the benefits of the project. It's, we believe the project as we're presenting it
in its infancy, is in compliance with the Growth Management Act, which is a regulation, and it's a charge of all communities, you know, that are of a certain size that are in a urban area. And we believe it is in compliance with the 2014 wastewater comp plan. A project such as this will help to solve, you know, it'll build some homes in the future, which will help to solve our local housing shortage. I'm sure there's been many conversations on council floor about the housing shortages. Another thing to add about all this is that urban growth area, and through the comp plan, there's been at least preliminary discussions in those plans that go through at least the beginning stages of the environmental reviews and things like that, so that, you know, there's never a perfect area to expand the urban growth. But 25 years ago, a group of people decided this was the best area to do it in the surrounding area around Bremerton, or one of the few areas. I'd also like to add that it would expand the sanitary sewer facility infrastructure by using developer-funded facilities. That's really important. That the estimated cost, again, it's a shot in the dark. It's putting my finger in the air and trying to figure out a cost, but we're looking at least $2 to $3 million at this stage for that portion of the project. And my understanding is that would reduce the existing budgeted amount that is as part of that comp plan. And as of the comp plan forecasted amount, this is again from 2014, but it was estimated at $6 million at that point in time. And if the project goes forward with a community drain field type of system or some other alternative sewer solution, if not allowed to hook up to the city system, the city, that budgetary item will remain on the city coffer, you know, on the city budget, and eventually this area will get annexed unless the plans completely reverse and this area is taken out of UGA and all those things. And sooner or later, the city would be responsible to build that lift station out of city budgets, as opposed to having a developer do it. So therefore, we feel that this is it's not a perfect solution. I don't believe there ever is a perfect solution, but we believe it is the best long-term solution to the sanitary needs of this area of the service, of this portion of the service area within the UGA. So with that, I conclude my time, and I'm going to hand it over to Gary Anderson. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Gary Anderson, by the way, and Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm going to speak from my notes. I don't have a slide presentation for you. As previously stated, the subject property lies within the urban growth area of Kitsap County. How this property was intended to be used has already been decided by Kitsap County and the city of Bremerton. The urban growth areas must be determined by Kitsap County in cooperation with the city of Bremerton as mandated by the Growth Management Act. This process requires a rigorous review of the circumstances on the ground by Kitsap County while considering the growth expectations that must be accommodated by each jurisdiction, or in this case, by the city of Bremerton. The decision-making ship has sailed as to how this property is intended to be utilized in the future. The city and county have decided on that this property will be an element of satisfying how the county and city will accommodate the growth that is coming to our county. At this point, the property owner is simply asking if the city of Bremerton will provide sewer service to this site, or if another alternative to city sewer service must be considered. This decision will determine how the property will be developed, but the results of that determination are yet to be realized. There is much to be done to make that determination, and this process will require environmental assessments, geotechnical evaluations, traffic studies, habitat considerations, sewer extensions or systems, and evaluations of water availability. Kitsap County will be the final arbiter of how this proposal will move forward, but at this point, we don't have enough information to determine the size, scope, or configuration of any development on this property. There will be a process. There will be an opportunity for the public to engage in that process as it moves forward. I stand here as a proponent of the process that has been established by the state of Washington and adopted by Kitsap County and the city of Bremerton. For many years as a realtor and real estate developer, I've been educated on how the Growth Management Act has provided for the means by which development in Kitsap County will adhere to those requirements. If adhering to those requirements demands that we accept the decisions of the leaders who have placed these standards of development before us, by which we must all respect, then we must respect it just as certainly here, or the Growth Management Act and our community leaders' decisions have been flawed from the start. Therefore, I support the efforts of the property owners and recommend approval by the city of Bremerton to support this request. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your presentation. I do want to clarify, this item was just brought to the council last week, and the reason we wanted to have a public hearing tonight with no action taken is because we hadn't gotten a lot of information. And I think the council overall recognized that, no, we don't control county zoning or county policies or anything else. We just have this decision of whether to extend wastewater. But the council had a robust discussion and we recognized the impacts, potential future impacts of that decision. And so that's why I wanted to have a public hearing to not only hear from yourselves developing the project to get the information we need, but to also hear from the community, because we knew this would also, we can't ignore the long-term impacts of these decisions. So thank you for that. But with that, the purpose of a public hearing is to accept public comment. Again, no action taken tonight. But with that said, I want to open the floor to any member of the public wishing to comment on this item. Same as public comment, I'll limit it to 3 minutes each. But if you're in the room here, please line up at the podium, or if you're online, raise your hand. I will limit comments to make sure they stay germane to this specific topic. But we very much looking forward to hearing from you. So yes, please come on up, and whoever's brave enough to go first.
Yes, hi. Thank you everyone for hearing me. I'm Anthony Agello from Port Orchard, actually. And I'm up here because first off, I saw an article in the paper that drew my attention to this. So I watched last week's meeting. And first up, I'm going to premise this with people in the area don't want it there. It's really that simple. They don't want it. 90% that's a pretty substantial amount, do not want the area to be annexed. So this assumption last week, like it'll eventually happen, and someone said development is not a bad word. Well, I've been a developer. I'm a developer myself, and development cannot just be a bad word. It can be catastrophic. And all I'm hearing is all why it's already accepted, like this is a done deal. And it's not a done deal. In fact, this is a potential lawsuit against the city of Bremerton if they do move forward with this, and also against the developer, who I haven't seen the actual developer yet, and he hasn't been present, or she. But this is, I know we talked about SEPA being done, the SEPA study, and it's GMA it's passed the GMA. I'm curious if everything's really been that investigated regarding that, let alone, let's not even get into the old forest growth and what an eyesore this will be for anyone coming in from a ferry into Bremerton. We won't even go there, but the people don't even want it there. And the fact that you're trying to make this sound like a done deal when the city of Bremerton isn't really involved with this. Oh, sorry. The city of Bremerton is not even really involved with this. They're trying to make it sound like they're involved with this, because rather than just have some beautiful lots developed over there, which they could do with septic, they want to try and obviously get most bang for their buck and say this is great for the shortage in Kitsap County of housing. Anyway, that's all I have to say, and thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, Marie Rexon. That's a hard act to follow. I just have two questions, and one is related to the documents that
that you quoted, and I haven't had as much time probably to study them as you, but
And I'm just going to ask everyone to address their comments to me.
sorry. So just a question, and I think it is probably your folks' desire to make sure this is, I think there's a reason they developed the statement cart before the horse. It's good to do it if you've checked it out, right? So when I look at figure 1-1 on page 1-3 of the 2014 wastewater plan, and also table 1.1, it appears that this water treatment plant is going to reach capacity in a couple years. Now, I could be misinterpreting those numbers because I haven't looked at them very long, but that's something that I think should be looked at and assessed before a decision is made to put the cart before the horse. The other thing is a much less numbers and bolts question. And I don't know if any of you have heard of Central Park. Bremerton parks are dear to me, probably to other people too, I'm going to guess. And I think the question we're looking at here is one of the last areas that could potentially turn into a park. I know it's not slated for that right now. I get that. But the residents that you folks represent in 20 years, I don't know if they're going to appreciate another housing development or if they're going to appreciate a green space. And I just want to leave you folks with that question. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. Got too much to say in too little time, so I'm going to just get right at it. My name is Blake Hofer. I am not a Bremerton resident. I'd like to start by thanking the City Council for giving our community the chance to publicly comment on the proposed wastewater extension to the Fisher Platte. I would also like to take a moment to thank everyone from the community for taking time out of their schedules to be here tonight. I understand that not everyone will choose to speak tonight, so may I please ask anyone from the community that is here tonight to stand up against the proposed wastewater extension to please make yourself seen by the council by raising a hand. Thank you for not letting that fall flat. I attended the study session for this proposal last week, and some of the statements from the council have really resonated with me. First, it was stated that people who currently have septic that could fail in the future would feel pretty lucky if they can just hook up to the city system. Well, I will not discount this experience entirely because I'm sure it can and does happen. I will offer an alternative viewpoint. First, I would like to point out that if city sewer was such a widespread relief for the public, then it would seem the mandate, not the opportunity, but the mandate, to require anyone in close proximity to hook up to it at some point is unnecessary. In my particular situation, my property borders the proposed development area, and should my septic fail, I would undoubtedly be required to hook into the city system. However, a portion of my property is reserved from development so that I have space available should my septic fail and I need to install a new one. So this is a very real concern to me. To summarize this point bluntly, I do not need city sewer, and I also do not want city sewer. A couple other items discussed during the study session that have stuck with me were first the opinion that the council should put blinders on to ignore every aspect of this wastewater extension request and merely focus on how the city engineering staff performed preliminary calculations and the city's wastewater system was determined to be adequate to accept the expected additional loading from the development. As an engineer myself, I understand the urge to just go with the numbers and take this very narrow viewpoint. However, I wholeheartedly disagree with it. This wastewater extension request has huge ramifications that demand the council to take a much wider viewpoint and consider all consequences of an approval to this request. I was somewhat relieved to hear later in the study that the Bremerton Municipal Code
governing this extension request was created as a mechanism to stop developers from always being able to connect into the city's wastewater system. In essence, the code mandates the city council to review the full picture in all circumstances, not merely leave this a rubber stamp process after preliminary calculations by city engineers. This is where we find ourselves today with the
10 seconds.
community. I'm sorry.
So I just 10 more seconds.
Oh. This is where we find ourselves today with the community helping to provide opinions and details about this request, not from the viewpoint of a developer financially incentivized to push this request through, but from the viewpoint of the surrounding community that will be left behind to live with the long-term negative consequences should this be approved.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your comments.
Can I move this? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good evening, Eliana Sanchez. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to speak and to be heard. One piece of information from the study session that I would like to comment on was this statement by the city engineers regarding the expectation for the city to generate about $250,000 per year from user fees for the proposed development. The city engineers made no mention of any of the cost that the city will surely incur due to the new equipment, systems, and increased demand on the existing infrastructure. For example, increased operation and maintenance costs, the potential to need additional staffing, any impact this new obligation could have on rate payers within the city limits, et cetera. Really, this statement appeared to lack the required information and really any proof of thorough consideration to make such claim. This entire community would be negatively impacted if the development is allowed to be built at the proposed density. It's in no small part because a wastewater extension request is approved by the council. Make no mistake, a vote in favor of this proposed wastewater extension is a vote in favor of developing this untouched wilderness area to the maximum extent possible, no matter what the consequences on nature and the surrounding communities and our current infrastructure. So without an approved wastewater extension request, any development of the Fisher Plat would look much different. Specifically, the number of homes would need to be drastically reduced. So why is the development proposing such high housing densities? Housing densities much higher than the surrounding communities? The answer must be based on profit. I understand that profit is not always bad. In some cases, portions of profit can go to funding new research that this world desperately needs. But this is not that kind of profit, is it? This profit is the old-fashioned kind, the kind where nature and local communities are harmed, while a select few individuals reap the rewards. In this case, the select few individuals reaping the rewards are not even part of our community. They will not be faced with any of the long-term negative consequences of this development. In closing, I would like to summarize by saying that there are ample reasons for the council to vote against this request, the requested wastewater extension. Bremerton Municipal Code puts this decision on the council. So now we, the impacted community, ask the council to see the negative consequences of approving this wastewater extension request that it far outweighs any supposed benefit and vote against this proposal. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Please go ahead.
Rough act to follow. Hello and good evening, council. My name is Sarah Hofer, and I want to start by saying thank you to all of our neighbors and members of this community that have shown up in person and to those connected through Zoom in opposition to the overhaul of the urban growth area and building of an entirely new city sewer system outside of city limits in the middle of an urban growth area near critical areas. My family and I are residents on Hillside Drive Northeast, directly across from the Fisher Plat. We have resided at this address since 2010 and purchased the empty lot next to our home in 2014 when our elderly neighbors were no longer able to maintain it. In 2016, our properties were rezoned from urban low density to urban restricted due to characteristic changes of our properties. A portion of homes off of 30th, part of Ennetai Beach Road, and portions of the properties now owned by the Fishers were also rezoned to urban restricted due to the same changes. The previous owner of this plat appealed the county's decision to rezone the now Fisher plat in question, stating the property was unchanged since its last assessment in 2012. I am assuming the county allowed this appeal to proceed under the guise that it was in the urban growth area and could potentially be developed in the future. At the time, this parcel was up for sale along with an adjacent property in Ennetai. I believe the county has a duty to confirm the zoning is appropriate for this area before the city even has an option to approve a city sewer build. Steep slopes, natural aquifers, characteristic changes, and wetlands need to be addressed. In the almost 8 years it has been since the surrounding areas were rezoned, we have seen temperatures exceeding 100 and temperatures as low as 12 degrees. Making the choice to simply approve an entirely new city-maintained sewer to put in before any other assessment has been done would be reckless. It's frustrating as a resident of this community to watch the city and county pass the buck back and forth, and we hear from the counties that it's a city decision, and from the city we hear that it's a county decision. So you can understand how that makes us residents feel if we have absolutely no representation. If the only representation we get is this 90-minute public meeting, it feels almost inappropriate to give the city full control on approving city sewer to a property that has no definite plans to absorb into the city soon. As a community already expressed our thoughts on annexation less than 2 years ago, as it was an overwhelming no from the neighborhood. I just have to say one more thing. I'm a believer in change and know in order for our community to grow, we need housing, but in this is no way would support the county's agenda to add affordable housing to our community, and certainly does not protect old growth green space. Almost 2 years ago when annexation failed, the developer was given 2 options for how he could utilize septic to develop the property, but is now trying to use a municipal code likely not written for subdivisions. This is a for-profit subdivision being built by a developer who does not live in our community.
That's 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments.
I apologize for not doing I did this old school and I thought you would have easels. I did email these maps to you, so you can kind of understand what I'm saying here.
There you go. If you go in that way, if you can speak into the mic for anyone online here listening. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right. So my name is Kathy Lustig. I live down on Rosewood and Rosewood Estates at the bottom. I will tell you that I am a map maker by trade, so I talk in maps and visuals. And I think it's important to talk a little bit about just what's going on here, what has happened with the zoning in the past 8 years, because there's some things that you should know about, as well as like see the visual of all the geological hazards and all the critical areas that are right adjacent to this parcel. I think we can all agree that development is inevitable. That we know that. I did attend Monday night via Zoom the city's comprehensive plan. They discussed the regional growth policy, which is mandated by the state. They discussed, what your policies are for the next 20 years. And the city's policies and priorities, seem to be focusing on concentrating development in existing centers of high density. In East Bremerton, what was identified was the Wheaton Way Corridor 303, where it's close to the transportation grid. People don't have to use cars. You've got the new Wheaton Way Transportation Center from Kitsap Transit. This parcel is out on an island. It's an old growth forest. There's no sidewalks. There's no bike lanes. There's no bus service. This is never going to be a high density area. It just is not possible given what's already around it. So this proposed development just doesn't really fit the city's regional growth plan at this time. That's my point on that. And so why not other parcels? Aren't there other parcels closer to the 303 and Wheaton Way corridor that would be more appropriate for this kind of high density development? And I think, to quote one of your engineers, he said without sewer and water, the density will be reduced. Well, yeah, that's the point. Um,
15 seconds.
the density that's being proposed in some of these maps, it's not reasonable for this area. You know, not given what we have here. I mean, we have a park up here, Illahee State Park, and this area right here is considered wildlife corridor.
And that's
You-
3 minutes, so I'm sorry to stop you there.
Okay,
but
is there any way you could give me a couple more minutes?
I got to be fair to everybody. Thank you so much for your comments, but
Okay.
yeah.
Am I allowed to come back?
Yep, one time only, but please feel free to write into the city council email address at any time. We
Okay.
do read every comment that comes in. Thank you. Yes, ma'am, please go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Judith Krigsman, and I live in Illahee, East Bremerton. I'm here to present 3 initial facts. 1, this property of 100 acres is bigger than Illahee State Park. And Fish and Wildlife has rated this property with the highest habitat rating in the area. As we know, the environment is the source of life for everyone. We have to balance the natural cycle that exists between the environment, the lives of human beings, plants, and animals. Team 4 engineering needs to understand that the community saw this coming back in 2006 and 2008. So the community got together and wrote a community plan. I was part of that committee. Our Board of County Commissioners approved our plan, and you will find it in the Kitsap County Comprehensive Plan. Illahee's boundary is a stone's throw from 30th Street. In our community plan, this area is zoned restricted. We are greenbelt, and this area has a view protection overlay. There is a reason for this. I suggest Team 4 Engineering revisit the Illahee Community Plan and the Kitsap County Comprehensive Plan. This would really benefit them. The terrain is not suited for sewers, and Illahee's zoning reflects this. In the Illahee Community Plan, we address the Bremerton, now Fisher Estate. This wildlife patch connects to Illahee State Park and then to the Illahee Preserve. That's the reason why it's zone restricted, greenbelt. Kitsap County recognized the fragility of the area and chose to listen to its citizens and its Illahee neighbors and enforce and endorse Illahee's community plan. It works well, and rearranging the environment with 189 new homes and sewers would be a grave mistake. In closing, this property contains this land of historical significance. The very founder of Bremerton, Mr. Bremer, saw this property as a special place to live.
I'm so sorry to stop you there, but just a bit over 3 minutes, so apologies. But thank you for your comments.
Hello, Council. Mike Simon. I am a member of Bremerton and Minette. These would be my new neighbors if it were annexed. And I think we eventually should. And I think we should build a sewer. And the reason why is it's going to give the city money. And it's cleaner for the environment. And these houses are going to be built. 189 families don't have a house right now or are renting because they can't afford a house. And the denser that we can build these neighborhoods, the more affordable the houses get because they have less land and land is worth money. So yes, there's probably some profiteering in there, but at the end of the day, the city is basically deciding if they want to make more money or not. And I think they should. I think this would benefit the city. I think it would benefit the residents who would only have to connect to the sewer instead of a $40,000-$50,000 septic replacement plan. That's a major thing. And I know a lot of those communities are probably at the point their septics are going to start failing because they're 50, 60, 70 years old in some cases. Some of them have already been replaced. I'm very familiar with this. I've seen it. And like I said, I think this is an area that would benefit Bremerton and it would benefit its citizens in the long run to be part of the sewer, to build these houses, to add these families to our community so that we have places for people to live. Our city is growing, our county is growing. We are 49th out of 50th for housing units per capita in this country. We need houses, we need them now. These 89 houses, we're not going to get for 3-4 years. So we're already behind. And that's what I'm saying. Build, connect, grow. I also think the city needs to look at alternative ways of mandatory annexation. I think the way the city has grown is haphazard and problematic. And I think the fact that the property value determines who has a louder voice, so that waterfront communities have louder voices in middle and lower class neighborhoods. I also think it's problematic that renters don't get to decide if they want to get annexed or not. I know there are people who rent on the council, and I think they would like their voices heard about what communities they get to belong in and what not. And I think the community here should also listen up, because if you work with the developers, maybe they build 189 houses, maybe they build 150 and give you a park for kids to play on. I know some of you guys would like some more parks. You can work with developers to mandate that so that everybody who buys a new construction in that community has to sign an agreement for part of that to be a green space.
Thank you for your comments. Sorry. Thank you. And just a reminder to the audience to please keep it down while someone's talking so that we can hear them and show everyone the respect you'd like to hear yourself. Thank you. With that, let's please continue.
Okay, my name is Eric Nemeth. Longtime resident, 50 years of this area. There's a lot of gameplay going on today, right? I was asked by a previous mayor to sit on the council at one point if I maintained our house in Anatite Beach, right? I know the developer. I know of the developer. I've been a painting contractor for 35 years. I asked around about him. I know how he interacted with our community. He's not part of the Anatite community. He's outside of it. It's not a good deal, right? I asked, well, what's the benefit to putting a sewer in for a developer? It's easy. It's done. He's not an experienced developer. He's an excellent business guy. Look at the people he hired. You kidding me? And if I had money and a vision and I didn't put my family first, I had an opportunity to buy that property, but I didn't make the right business decisions. Back in the day, the city was responsible for costing me $500,000. Who told me that? Constitutional taking by Dick Settle, the same guy that you guys hire to do annexation. I know what the hell's going on around here. I'm not too happy the way Bremerton has grown up through the years and the decisions being made. But I commend everybody for holding a job, wanting to do something. That's great. I can tell you right now, out of the 5 people, 2 people that are going to vote yes. I know that right now by looking at you, what you've commented, how you hold yourself. I get it. And I'm not here to tell anybody any grandiose stories about what should be done or what shouldn't be done. But I know a lot of things that have happened in the city and how the city's gotten taken advantage of and how councils had a position on it and the city and the developers and the whole gameplay. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, but you might want to take a minute And I'm sure the $900, whatever you guys get paid and signed up and get to be somebody and have something to say, great. You know, but just take a minute and figure it out. And I don't know that it's that important to, you know, bust up the whole, you know, area and create something for somebody. Because this person that came in and moved and bought the Cheney property affected all of us down at Anati Beach and the way he dealt with us, because we had our water source on his property and he didn't want anybody on the property. We had to hire a third person and it got pretty ugly. Well, guess what? He never forced anybody off, but we all have our own wells now. We kind of lost that sense of community and that fellowship around water and all that. So that's the guy you're dealing with. You know, you're dealing with somebody that point blank said, I got enough money to do whatever I want to do. Good luck.
Thank you for your comments.
Jane Revelowski. I live in the city of Bremerton. It's obvious that the majority of what is called East Bremerton does not want to be part of our city because they voted over 90% not to be annexed in. And that land that they're proposing to put 186 houses is gorgeous. And to destroy that is just unbelievable. And I know people buy land and get to do what they want to do with their land. I understand that. But this is, for religious people, a sin to destroy this property. And I don't care. I don't feel sorry for the 186 families who don't have a $700,000 or $800,000 house to move right into. It's not like this is.
And again, I'm going to pause. I'm sorry. Ask folks to please let people speak so we can hear them. Thank you.
I mean, it's, if we were actually talking about building something affordable, number one, we wouldn't be destroying such a beautiful piece of property. The Growth Management Act was passed in 1990. A lot of people didn't believe in climate change then. So times have changed. Urban boundaries should change. So only suitable land to be absorbed into a city should be considered. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, please go ahead and then we'll look to see if there's anyone online afterwards.
Christy Klein, and I'm obviously a resident over there. I just found out about this about 4 or 5 days ago, so I haven't got any prepared statements, but I think we've heard some very important, serious information tonight, and I implore all of you to not go ahead with approval. I think from the standpoint of there's much more that needs to be done. I am concerned that this is the developers trying to ram this through when it's like putting the cart before the horse, as the gentleman said. Even the developers' own representatives have indicated we're at the very beginning of a conceptual process. So why are we trying to, sign you guys in to commit to this at this point when we're at the beginning of this process? We haven't looked into the environmental impacts or enough of that. The ones that were done earlier, maybe they've changed some. So we need to have updated information. This kind of a development is going to have a major impact on that area, and it's going to destroy that area. Yes, we do need more housing. I totally get that. But that doesn't mean that you go throw it into an area that's going to be devastated. And I'm not just talking about from the standpoint of the view. I'm talking about the wildlife. I'm talking about the land. I'm talking about potential for landslides because it's not done correctly. I'm talking about insurance problems. I'm talking about, we don't have enough services like police, fire, the schools. We don't have enough teachers. We're talking about adding and building, more people, more houses into this community. This is not the area to do it. Just from my own standpoint, again, let me take a step back. I think I really urge you to take a look at this developer and his background and what he's proposing. I've had a very small personal incident in my own neighborhood with a greenbelt that's directly behind my house. The developer showed up one day, drove across my property, started cutting down trees. He didn't have permits. He didn't have anything set up. He had no authorization. He came back later to do a topical map, I believe it is. He bulldozed down trees. He bulldozed within 50 feet of a protected stream when the limits, I guess, are 150 feet. He pushed trees and debris into the stormwater runoff streams that the county put in. He hasn't taken it out yet, but gee, it sure floods my property at the bottom of the neighborhood. And it's because it wasn't looked into. This guy had no authorization to do this. We didn't look at what he was and how he'd handled other business type things. And I just
10 seconds.
This is huge. Please listen. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Let's look, see if there's anyone online. We'll go to Mark Dion, and just in case, a reminder that in this case, comments do have to stay on topic to this proposal. All right, please go ahead, Mr. Dion. Mr. Dion, if you can hear us, you should be able to unmute and speak. We'll just give it another few seconds. All right, Mr. Dion, we can't hear you, so let's go back in the room and continue public comment here. So yes, sir, please, why don't you go ahead?
Hello, my name is Dan. I moved here 7 years ago, so I don't have a lot of history here in Bremerton or Kitsap County. It's a good place. I've enjoyed it. I've bounced across the country and moved around quite a bit. But I think we just need to take 1 second and do a slight toe drag and understand this. I see both sides and I understand the need from both sides. And I also understand that everybody in front of me and behind me has done a lot of work, and there's a lot of love for Bremerton and Kitsap County in general. But we are a peninsula. I grew up in a place that was farm country. We developed quick. We're landlocked. We made some quick decisions that, looking back now, it's a little hard. I'm not saying no. I'm also not saying yes. I'm saying we have a lot going on. 303, ton of money and work gone into it in the last 7 years I've been here. You look at everybody building, we're trying to put housing in everywhere we can. We're doing great things. But I think it's more than just a septic and a sewer. Let's step back and think about one other thing. How much money's gone into Manette? We're pumping more houses in that area. Is Manette going to be big enough to handle what we're doing? I ride a bicycle to work. I can see what happens when kids have to deal with all the traffic. So I'm not against the development. I understand we need to grow, but remember, we're a peninsula. We can only go so far. Once it's gone, it's gone. People are here to be stewards of the people and stewards of the land, and it's not an easy decision for anybody. But I also think that because of what's going on, we need to make sure we're looking out for our future, and both city and county are talking to each other and making the best decisions, not for me, not for my kids, but look way out. That's what we have left. And you've got people that have way more history than me that are concerned. So just take a second, think, talk. People are counting on everybody to make the good and the right decisions. And it's not easy, and there isn't right one, but we have to pick the best path. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Roy Runyon, Bremerton. I live in West Bremerton. I was asking myself, do I have a dog or do I have a cow in this fight? I didn't mention the cow. Anyway, I do, because I'm a taxpayer, I'm a citizen. I also used to serve on the city council. And I actually voted for an exception to run sewer into Gorst. Gorst is not part of the city of Bremerton. There was no annexation. So just to give you some historic perspective, and I voted in favor of that because it made sense to protect Gorse Creek and Sinclair Inlet by keeping pollutants, E. coli, out of the stream. But this is kind of the other way. So apples and oranges, I understand that. You know, there have been major things done and huge investments made in time and money to direct growth into certain areas of our state. You know, we're seeing Puget Sound growing very rapidly. People are still moving into Washington state despite all the problems. where are we going to put those people? It was mentioned earlier that we've gone through a huge planning process, cooperative planning process to determine where the growth would happen. And maybe not you individually as council members, except for maybe one, had any role in approving all that. So a lot of those things have been approved and you are suffering or benefiting from the consequences. And that's another thing. As a historian, you know, we all benefit from our ancestors and we all think, and there's a lot of talk about tribal people and their rights. And, you know, our ancestors had to displace people. We had to destroy the land or change the land. We've all benefited from that. People in the room will sell their homes that have appreciated dramatically because of that fact. And I wonder, how fair is it for us to shut the door on other people who are looking for a high quality of life, a high standard of living, just like we are? Think about that. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. My name is Adrian. I was not planning on speaking, so it's a little intimidating. I just got involved in this roughly 4 days ago. I was given notification and I have a lot more questions than I have opinions or answers. And I'm just wondering if the city council, you talked about long-term impacts. I believe that was you, Jeff. And so really looking at long-term impacts, we got a brief about how much money would be lost in revenue. But it sounds like potentially annexing is in the future. And so, you know, someone's already brought up how much is it going to cost to maintain sewers and streets and police and fire. And so wondering if the city is taking that into consideration. And then also I've been made aware of some ethical concerns as it relates to this developer. And my understanding is that a very quick Google search will provide you with information that may change your mind or your opinion on some of the information that was provided today. And it's still very surface. And to me, a developer, just like any, you know, city worker, right, would have to show proof and data and do their due diligence. I believe they should have to do their due diligence too. And the ethic concerns are really cringeworthy, for lack of better words. And does the city want to get in business with a developer like that? And knowing that potentially the impact of the long-term consequence of, yes, they say they're willing to put in a pump station, they say they're willing to do, you know, X, Y, and Z theoretically, but will they actually do that? And when we are annexed, that will become a city issue or concern. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, I'm Jill Beal. I actually live just outside city limits of Bremerton, but this Fisher Plat is across the street from our property. And if it weren't for Kathy, I don't think I would have even known about this. So I thank her for her hard work so far. But I just wanted to bring up a point that actually I just have seen tonight on this map. And so this blue part of the map had been, the county had deemed the Fisher property previously slated to be rezoned urban restricted in 2016. But Cheney, who was the previous owner of all the blue, well, most of the blue area, he opposed the rezoning and the county okayed it for it to be rezoned to, is it urban low? Urban low. So without any public notification. So the point is, if you look at this map carefully, all the land around it is urban restricted, except it. And why is it special and not included as it was supposed to be? And why did these people win their fight to get it rezoned? That is a really good question that you all should be thinking about. And, you know, I don't know what happened. I wasn't there, but it seems a little concerning, actually very concerning. So, yeah, so maybe this was not even supposed to be a part. I mean, I think the county had said, you know, this is land we need to set aside. So I'd like to see that continue. And maybe, I don't know how you can redo that, but let's do it.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Hi, council. My name is Hesper Kohler. I do want to bring up, you were told that none of us are your citizens, and I agree, but we do shop everywhere you shop. We are bringing money into Bremerton. Bremerton is what we claim as home, even though politically we are outside of Bremerton. We recently moved into this neighborhood about 4.5 years ago. My husband and I are one of the younger couples in the area, and we do know there is money there. But most of the families that you meet there have lived there 30 to 40 years. When they bought those houses, they were not high money, high value homes. All of us live in homes that were built in the 40s, except for 2 to 3%. But why we picked this property is there's this nest of bald eagles that nest there. There's a mother and 2 fawns that come through our yard every day. We have owls we hear every night. It is, as a younger person, I know we need urban growth, and I feel like most of us are not against development in this area, but it is the scale of development that is requested. And the thought of losing everything that is so precious about that community, not because of the money. My husband and I talk that, yes, our house has gone up in ridiculous price, but the fact is, if we tried to sell, we could never buy anything that we have now. It is a special community, and we would welcome others to have that, but in even just a smaller scale or a way that allows that wildlife, that quietness, that community to still exist. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, is there anybody else for public recognition on this topic? All right.
I'm Mike Simpson, live in District 6, so I'm on the other side of the city. I was on the city council before. All of you know me. And when a project like this came up before, up by Windy Point, the council was asked to add the stormwater into the property and basically annex it and take it over so that a developer could come in and develop a large development up on the point. And I spoke against it because it wasn't right for Bremerton at the time. And I don't like the idea of subsidizing projects outside of our city. We have enough projects here that we need to develop. There are a lot of properties in our city that need to be developed. There are all kinds of infrastructure problems that we need to solve here in Bremerton. And that's where the city needs to focus. It's focus what we're doing. We already have a comprehensive plan. We already have development plans that are set up to increase our urban growth inside of some of the sectors in the city. And adding in this area that isn't fed by our mass transit, isn't fed by bike lanes, isn't fed by our multimodal plan, is not a proper use of our money. We, the ratepayers, the ones that live here, don't necessarily want to pay for all of this. We realize that some of this stuff could potentially lower the cost of houses, but I don't believe that. I don't believe it's gonna drop $1 off a house anywhere. I think it's probably gonna drive the cost of housing up. And whether you believe that or not is up to you. And Council President, it is up to you and the rest of the council to make the decision on whether we move forward with this or not. Is it worth the money that's being dangled in front of the city to buy off on this project? Is it really worth it? We don't know. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Right. There's anybody left, please line up at the podium. I think I maybe see one person.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor. I'm Jan Miller. I came to Bremerton in 1964 in Rosewood Estates. My uncles, my mom's brothers, built Rosewood Estates to Rosewood and Helm. After that, Hill was added on with Armstrong Homes. And as a boy, I grew up in those woods. I've been down into the stream. I fished down there, and we built forts as young cousins. All our cousins were around, so I know the area quite well. And I was just sitting in the back. I didn't have a real decisive plan or speech, but so next year I'll be here 60 years in Kitsap County, except for a few years I went to school in Arizona. I had some things I jotted down. I thought I'd mention those. The urban growth statement that the state is mandating all the counties. I can see that. I currently did 35 years in the shipyard. I was a middle manager. I worked on the nuclear side of the house. Retired, and I became a school bus driver. Kitsap County Central Kitsap School District.
Sorry, if we can just, yes,
Kitsap County School District, Central Kitsap. Been there almost 8 years, and I've seen Kitsap County getting carved up. There's a proposal, and it's already been accepted. Another 800 and some homes out on Newberry Hill Road. I take kids up to Cahalia. It's all the way from El Dorado on the top, all the way down to Provost before the freeway. The freeway is backed up from Newberry Hill Road to Gorse every afternoon on Highway 3. So, granted, we need homes, as a gentleman stated from Bremerton here. But this area up here, you know, I asked the question to myself. I said, why didn't Cheney ever build that? Why didn't Mr. Cheney ever build that? He lived down there. He spent his time down there. And I really believe he loved it so much he didn't want to develop it and wanted to leave Anatide Beach the way it was and Illahee. So I still live over in that area. I live off of East 30th in a cul-de-sac called Pickering Place. I've been there 46 years now. So Bremerton, I went to high school at East High School, graduated in 73, Dewey Junior High, East Bremerton Elementary. So I know Bremerton pretty well. And it's a great city. It always has been. They support the Navy here. We do a mission down there, and the kids are great. But, you know, you guys got to really look at that. That thing's landlocked. Basically, that property's landlocked. So they have to bring something in there to be able to start cutting that place up and dropping in sewer lines. I see it out there driving that bus around. Go on the other side of Nels Nelson on the highway. I know on the other side of Nels Nelson on the highway 3, and you'll see what they did up there, right behind Rich Top Junior High. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you for your comments. Triple checking, still no one else online, Dave. All right, going last call in the room. Once, twice. All right, with that, I'll go ahead and, you beat the buzzer. All right. Close this out here.
My name is Travis Duke. I'm a fourth generation Kitsap County electrician, and I live right down the corner, Viewcrest, right next to the edge. What's going to happen? I live right there next to the edge. Moved in about 2 years ago with my wife and kids. And if any of you guys spent your whole life saving up money to move into a house that wasn't densely populated, the area, you know, we came from West Bremerton where everything's cars and traffic everywhere, to move over there to where it's really nice. I used to live there with my my grandparents a long time ago, so now we're finally moving back in, and you guys are going to ruin it. It's going to be terrible. It's terrible. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Right, seeing nobody else for public comment on the public hearing, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. A reminder, we'll be continuing to discuss this item at our next study session. So thank you for everybody who spoke up, and for anyone who's written in, your email should have been recorded in the public record in our council packet of everything received before, and if anything came in after, we'll make sure the packet gets updated with those comments for us to read. So thank you again. All right, with that, we have no general business tonight. So let's continue public recognition. And we'll just see if there's anybody who wanted to speak in public recognition that didn't get to earlier in the evening. And Dave, is there anyone online? Or anyone else? I know there's one gentleman in the room. Oh, yes, sir. If you want to say your public recognition, please go ahead and then I'll look online.
Really quickly, and people have already talked about it before, but I just wanted to bring a reminder on that homelessness issue. It's been points I made have been made already before, so I'll be really quick. In terms of last study session, Anna Mockler talked about parking lot or some type of first phase. I believe in phasing. I believe in a lot of things that you guys can do. Getting the ball moving is really important. And I think that a lot of people would appreciate just things moving along before Oyster Bay or even talks about it. The other thing is I love being a citizen activist and advocate, talking with people like Viewcrest Apartments or whatever, whether it be like last night, meeting with a group talking about Block Watch and Joe Sexton and community. Is there a way that we can just promote this all? Because we really need to turn this crime around, particularly when you hear people talk about not just low-level property crime and stuff like that, but gangs, drug cartels, and higher-level crime as well. So I'll just leave that as it is, and hopefully that things can turn around on a larger level. Thank you.
Thank you. And sir, did I get sorry, just for the meeting minutes, your name? Adrian. Excellent. All right, thank you. All right, online we'll go to Joseph, and council, if it's the same person from earlier, please let me know.
Hi, I just want to talk about the two gentlemen that called in with the nasty speech. Can't that be looked at by the council as hate speech, and you wouldn't tolerate it? If that can be added to your, things, because for us to have to listen to people like that, it's not fair. It's not fair to everybody else. And so I just want to point that out. I also want to thank everybody who stood up for Judge Flood. I was very proud to hear everybody speak. I do find this town to be a bit on the racist side, and that meeting I found very racist. So that's it. Thank you.
So no, thank you for your comments. And yeah, the current best legal guidance is, again, if somebody is, unless they're disrupting the meeting or calling for physical violence, to let the First Amendment stand. But I will be discussing with our city attorney to see if there's any ways to address that, because we haven't quite had that before. So thank you. All right, and anybody else for public recognition that didn't speak at the start of the meeting? Going once, going twice, no more hands online. We'll close public recognition and we'll go to council reports. All right. So council reports are an opportunity for council members to take 5 minutes to provide any updates or issues taking place in their district, any events they've recently attended, or speak on any other city related topic. Since this is the last council meeting of the month, we'll start with District 7, Councilmember Eric Younger.
Thank you. And I hesitate to say anything until people that want to leave go ahead and leave. Most of the time they just leave. Actually, Mr. Runyon, I got an answer for you on your cow question. So if you guys all want to stay for that. First of all, I want to say thank you to those, especially those that are still sticking around, for showing up tonight and letting your voice be heard. Really do appreciate it. And I believe everyone here was intently listening, and hopefully you saw that. And we were, at least from my perspective, I was looking at you, not looking at my fellow council members. Okay. Mr. Runyon brought up a question about cows and the Humane Society not taking care of them. On a lighter note, so Roy, we go back. Mr. Runyon was on the council, so I don't know if you remember, but our ordinance, I believe, does not allow livestock unless the annex property comes in with horses or whatever, and then they're grandfathered in. until said animals no longer exist, and then they fall in with the rest of the city. So you can't have cows in the city limits, so it's a moot point. With that, that concludes my report. Thank you.
A moot point. All right. Next up, we have, we'll move to District 5, Councilmember Michael Goodenow.
Again, yeah, thank you for everybody for participating tonight, and I have no report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And did Councilmember Dennehy join us?
I'm on here.
Oh, you are our Councilmember Dennehy. Excellent.
Well,
Sorry, we
brother,
didn't have any
no,
council
no.
discussion, so I didn't see you. But yes, next up we have District 4, Councilmember Quinn Dennehy.
No problem. I'll keep mine short. As far as the comments that were made tonight, I also want to just register my own disgust with them. However, as former council member Simpson stated, the First Amendment is very strong, and it's a jurisprudence that is something that I also would stand up for the ability for people to say really offensive things, because it's a slippery slope otherwise. And I think we're getting sound legal counsel to take comment and not interrupt comment unless it is something that disrupts the meeting or incites violence. But I do want to register my disgust with some of the statements that were stated today. As far as my district, a couple updates for businesses. There's a new business, Shotsky's, that is on 6th and Veneta. And I'm very, very happy that Midtown Market seems like it's on its way to reopening. So hopefully there'll be some folks that are able to access some good quality groceries by foot and by bike in the district. Thanks so much.
Excellent. Next up, we have District 2, Councilmember Denise Fry.
Thank you all, boy, for suiting up and showing up and sharing from your heart. And a lot of you have done deep dives on this, and we really appreciate that. I know we do collectively, and we make these decisions collectively. So I've got just a few slides. This was presented to us last week as a pretty simple decision. And I saw right away, at least for me, I don't dispute that it's seen very simply by some, because our brains work in different ways. And so some people look at this and the way it was presented to us, you know, from Public Works, which has engineers and planners and all of those types of thinkers, it seemed pretty simple, and it wasn't. And so if you go to the next slide, please. This is really important to remember. We have to know the difference between what we have a right to do and what is the right thing to do. And that spoke to me when I came upon it earlier today, resonated with me. We each have our own perceptions. They're all different, but there are some moral and ethical issues here for me, because ecology and environment are very high moral and ethical issues for me. And so that's the perspective that I bring. Let's go to the next one, please. There has to be awareness that there's an ethical issue in order to make ethical decision making. If we're not made aware of those ethical considerations, then we may not think of them because we're different thinkers, each and every one of us. So that's one reason you all are so important to city government, is because all of you have different perspectives. This identify all the stakeholders, research the facts, you know, all of this. This should be kind of normal for us to do. And yet, often we mistake an ethical and moral decision for a simple financial decision. And I haven't decided yet, folks. We don't decide these things right away. But I'm glad the community's involved. And in closing, I'm just going to say one thing, that is, you are all Bremertonians, all of you. Whether you live in the city or not, you are my neighbors. And I'm District 2, so you're my peeps. When I go over to Illahee and I hike, you know, I have friends on Ridgeview, or Viewcrest. I mean, yeah, you're kind of in my hood. So, you know, whether or not you're in the city limits, I think of you, I live with you, and I'm concerned about you. So thank you for your input tonight.
So next up, District 1, Vice President Jennifer Chamberlain.
Hello, thank you. Okay, so to me, there are two issues here that really are at my heart. We have a houselessness crisis. We need more housing. Theoretically speaking, more housing equals more opportunities for middle class to buy housing, for those houses to be relieved and other folks to move in. Then we have the ethical dilemma of the green space. And also the very valid concerns that y'all brought up about the developers. So I have a few questions I'm going to be asking in the future that I starred. And so I really appreciate y'all bringing the information to it. Thank you. Ethical things that I'm going to be, 2 or 3 ethical things that I'm going to, as we move forward. I think I guess I feel like I need to address a couple of comments that were made, which are completely valid. So there was some feedback that I have been receiving about an interaction with Judge Flood. And I don't know about y'all, but anytime that a politician does not admit when they're wrong, that just drives me bananas. And I don't think that's right. I think a good politician is somebody who learns and grows. They don't come into a situation necessarily knowing all the right answers, but if they do learn a better way, they better act a better way. And so on the 27th, September 27th, I did apologize for, the mechanisms in which I asked questions of Judge Flood. And so you can go back to that if you want to, for those who are interested. And I'm very grateful for the feedback because it's probably, it's something that I need to learn and grow as a politician. So the other side of it is that I have 2 jobs here on City Council. The job is to, create laws and do legislation, and also to be worried about money and the budgets. So when I have a department that comes before us that has confusing and questionable fiduciary practices and protocol, I'm going to call it into question. That's my job. And I still hold true to the intent of the questions I asked on September 20th. But I will learn and grow on the ways in which I ask those questions. I think that when we have situations where we are questioning other politicians and other department heads, we need to be given that liberty as city council members to do our job. So I just felt like I needed to say that. And thank you again very much for all that came for public comment. It's always nice to have a full house. And that is all. Thank you.
Well said. All right, I'll wrap us up here. Again, giant thanks to everybody who came out. I'm really personally happy the council had this public hearing just to take our time and get all the information. And I love this council because we deep dive a lot and we get nerdy and we get into the details, but I think that's how you make the best decisions you can. So thank you all for speaking up. My district includes downtown, both Manette and Bremerton downtown. And I'm not going to talk about either of them, but I'm going to talk about other downtowns, Seattle and Vancouver, Washington, and Tacoma. I went to 2 conferences recently that both were on downtown revitalization. And so I got a bunch of slides I just wanted to go through because there were some great lessons learned, I thought. The first one was in downtown Seattle, just a 1-day was called Pandemic to Prosperity. The whole morning was packed with a bunch of fellow nerds from Brookings Institute, UW, that did some really good data deep dives to kind of show what we already know, which is pandemic changed things. More remote work, office spaces downtown are underutilized. People's habits are changing in terms of their daily commute, when they run errands, when they work. And the next two slides just has the main takeaways of recommendations from that conference on how cities can adapt. And what they really recommended was, downtowns aren't dead. We just need to adapt a bit. They basically said, just make downtown a place where people want to live, and whether they're working there or not, but they want to live and interact with the community. So activate as many downtown spaces as you can, help small business. And then the next slide was short-term and long-term, was basically trying to diversify the uses, get in housing, get in more businesses, make it easy. We need help from the state to make it easier to reconvert old office buildings to residential. I know that the legislature is going to be working on that. But then the main thing too about this conference was invest in transit and walkability. People don't travel as far since they're not commuting to their job, they're staying closer to home. Make it easier for people to walk and bike and get to downtown and get to where all the fun stuff is. And then next slide, the other conference was in Vancouver, Washington. This was hosted by the Washington State Department of Historic Preservation and Archaeology, part of the Department of Commerce. And it's a conference on this Main Street Association, which the city is working on becoming a member through our Downtown Bremerton Association. And it was really apt to have it in Vancouver because they actually have a main street that is called Main Street, and they're working on revitalizing this entire Main Street from 5th to 15th Street to make it a more walkable, accessible area. And what was neat about the conference is it was an audition center. Actually, all the locations for the different talks were scattered around downtown. So it forced you to go location to location, actually walk there downtown to get everywhere. And so some neat takeaways on this. If you go to the next slide, just to learn from other cities, their public works came out and did this mock-up of what the street will ultimately look like, just using some cheap plywood and 2x4s and some paint and markers. And I thought that was really neat. And they have a sign there to say, hey, give us feedback. This is what it's going to look like. Next slide. This was a great group. It was a local nonprofit. There's this big triangular patch of dirt in one of these large intersections, kind of a pedestrian island refuge. Right now, it's just dirt and a few shrubs. This nonprofit got a grant to actually redo it with a bunch more foliage. And then they're working with an indigenous sculptor to create a art installation in the middle, an indigenous art installation. And so they really were praising their public works on how easy they were to work with and removing roadblocks. And I thought it just was a great nonprofit and public works collaboration to spruce up the space with some external money. Next slide. They had some great downtown wayfinding signage. I know we got that on the way. Mayor and staff been working hard on this downtown wayfinding signage project that we should be seeing the first of in our downtown at the end of this year. But this is just a great example, and I think it'll be pretty similar. Next slide. Fantastic project here called Fourth Plains Community Commons. I want to highlight this is a collaboration between the City of Vancouver, the Vancouver Housing Authority, like our Bremerton Housing Authority, and this nonprofit group. And what happened is that the city and the Vancouver Housing Authority worked together to build this building. And the housing authority owns the top, and it's mostly all Section 8 housing that they run and rent out. And the bottom is owned by the city, but they contract with the nonprofit to run the operations. And the bottom has basically a co-working space, a larger kind of multi-purpose room, and then at the top right here, this community commercial kitchen, which I thought of you, Vice President Chamberlain. I know you have your awesome baking industry and always struggle to find space, and this is just a huge area for the community to be able to rent out and bake in large scale and cook. So yeah, we got some bread tonight. So really neat project of things coming together, and they stacked funding from state, federal, other sources to make it happen. Next slide. Just a great picture the city put up to say, hey, anything you want to see in your community here, here's how to contact us in both languages, Spanish and English. Next slide. Some great examples of public mural wall art. I know we're going to have some great murals as part of Quincy Square, and there's already some in the city, but there's some other examples of working with property owners and city buildings and local arts commission to get some public beautification. Next slide. This is a really neat street mural that was actually painted in a residential street area, and we asked why here because it was a little off the beaten path, and they said it was actually for the city approved it for traffic calming because this was a street where there was a lot of speeding. It's a very straight street, no bump out. So as folks approached it, they saw there's a big painting in the road, tended to slow down, and then it also made the area super pretty and got the local community engaged. So thought that was fantastic. Next slide. Other painting they've done, they've kind of calm intersections, make them more pedestrian friendly by painting some crosswalks, putting in some plastic bumpers. You can see that also planters in the street. Next slide. And I got to highlight, they have an awesome streetery program. They've updated every couple of years, and so there were quite a number of different streeteries. They had some great aesthetics. They're all kind of on a platform, so they're even with the curb for ADA accessibility. I think something we should be looking at. Next slide. But I also want to highlight this. So this picture was taken, it's basically right outside their city hall. So they happen to have this large grassy area right behind their city hall. And the mayor of Vancouver spoke about it in her introductory remarks, and basically said what they did was they put up some chain link fencing around this area. There's one controlled access point that's facing city hall. And it's basically obviously a temporary place for folks to set up tents who don't have houses. And they said they have regular public works pickup, and that everyone here is on a waiting list for transitional housing. And so just wanted to highlight that they had some favorable geography here, but something as well I know the folks in the city are looking at to see if it's something we can replicate or not. And then I just got two last slides here quickly, and two other programs I saw all down there I wanted to highlight. One was this pre-lease program run by their Department of Community Development. It's basically a free program for anyone who wants to open a business in the city who may be looking at leasing a space to do so. And so they say, hey, before you sign a lease, before you go ahead, we have a free program. We will actually meet you, the community development people in charge of zoning and codes, the fire marshal, building inspector, city engineers will all converge on the location you're looking at leasing along with the building owner, and basically do a free walkthrough with you. And at that point tell you, yeah, hey, is your business able to be open to the zoning? Does the building need code? Is there any updates that need to happen? And then you get to walk away with a full written kind of A to Z, here's how to open it. So they said it's been a win-win-win. They've been doing about 10 years for everybody. It saves the pain from somebody who might enter into a lease thinking they can open a business, and later they find out they can't due to zoning. And it lets renters, leasees know, oh, this building might need 20 grand of work, and then who's going to pay for that before they go into it. So really nice program I wanted to highlight. And it sounds like even like small towns like Wenatchee have it, and large cities like Portland. And the very last slide, I probably over my time, apologies. This was presented by the city of Vancouver, who was at the conference. Their council set aside some extra funds for a neighborhood that really needed some love, basically. And with those extra funds, they're able to do this kind of deep dive community engagement to hold a bunch of community events, surveys, really engage the community, what they wanted to see. And they came up with both a ranking of long-term public works project they'd like to see, like the number one was redoing this overlook, but they also had what are some quick wins you can get done. And so it sounds like in the past year, they're able to do some curb painting, some quick tree planting, work with public works on some public art, and get a fountain bottle fill station in there. So just something else I wanted to highlight. And they even got a vote on if you would assign $50,000 to one of 4 projects or pre-approved, which one would you choose? And so the community got real input into what they want to see. Anyway, so with that, I sent the email to everyone on council, mayor, and department heads, just the write-up of what I learned. But thanks, council, for sending me a very valuable conference, and folks from our downtown Bremerton and Charlton business area attended as well, and we all split up to different sections. So that concludes my report. Got a couple announcements before we adjourn. Immediately following adjournment, council will go to an exempt closed door session as allowed under RCW 42.30.140 section 4 subsection B to discuss labor negotiations or proceedings. No action will be taken. Also, the council will be meeting with the mayor, department directors, and staff for the first of 3 budget workshops to discuss the proposed 2024 budget and general fund, the mayor's proposal, which should come out tonight. We're going to be meeting on Monday, October 23rd, beginning at 3 p.m. in the meeting chambers. Public is welcome to attend right here, but there'll be no opportunity for comment. It'll also be broadcast online by Zoom. And of course, written comments on the proposed budget are most welcome by emailing city.council@ci.bremerton.wa.us. And lastly, the next study session will be held in the 6th floor council conference room on Wednesday, October 25th, beginning at 5 p.m. with a remote option available by Zoom. Thanks for everybody for sticking around. This concludes tonight's regular council business meeting. Meeting is adjourned.